He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests to a cutting-edge daily news broadcast focusing on America First politics, culture, and values. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, this is the Alex Marlow Show. Thanks for joining me. I will give the audience some information. So this is a week where I've got a lot going on, very busy, a lot of work to do. And as opposed to just taking time off, which is for suckers and losers, we're going to do the shows this week, but they might be a little different texture. So I'm going to try to bring in some of my favorite guests, and which does lighten the load for me a little bit, makes it an enjoyable process, and make sure you get shows every day. So I don't know what every show is going to look like, but today is an easy one. John Nolte is here. And the biggest story right now, John, who's our senior writer on all things entertainment and media at Breitbart, also the author Borrowed Time, which all of you should read. You've all read it by now, right? You all got the hardcover, so John gets a few more bucks. I hope so. But John, so the biggest story, we waited for it, and it did not disappoint. The Snow White bomb was years in the making. It was so well-deserved. Give me your 30,000 foot. I got a lot of specifics on it for you, but you saw it. I can't wait to get your review, but give me your thoughts on watching the lack of box office numbers roll in over the weekend.
It's a bad movie. I saw it Thursday night, and it's a terrible movie. I remember seeing the first live action movie that Disney did, which was Cinderella, I think back in 2016. And I'm not a big fantasy fan, but I enjoyed that movie. It was beautiful to look at. And the woman who played Cinderella was just enchanting, and they respected the source material. Everything about it worked. It was just I even bought the Blu-ray because I liked it that much. I wanted my wife to see it. But this is just a catastrophe. Just artistically, it's a catastrophe. The movie is ugly to look at. It is Rachel Zegler can sing. She plays Snow White. She can sing. She's got pipes, but everything is bombast. That's how she sings everything, very bombastic, like she's on Broadway. There's no subtlety to it, and the CGI it looks like something you'd see on YouTube. Looks like something in 2001, and the story is just dreadful. It's she's not waiting for her prince to come. She's waiting to be a fearless leader. And that's her destiny to become a fearless. It's just and yet it wants to be old fashioned in other ways. It's just a bad movie. It was very tough to sit through. And I never believed it. That was the biggest problem. A lot of bad movies will suck you in and you'll just think, well, this isn't a very good movie, but you believe what you're seeing. And this is, I just never believed it. It just never worked for me as far as being able to make me believe that was happening somewhere, even if it was boring, even if it was tedious, it was happening somewhere. I just never bought it. It was a very tough sit, I'll tell you.
So it feels bad. Those of you who got to the end of my show on Friday, I recommend it. I read, John, all these reviews on Rotten Tomatoes that were marked in the positive category, and they were all negative. They all were saying that the movie is ho-hum, not hi-ho. And it was all just like ripping the movie. And yet the critics were just trying their best to make it not be considered the worst movie of the year. But it's really fun. So let me remind the audience of where all of the hatred started. And then I want to get back to the movie itself. But this is why those of you who might be coming into this late and don't understand why we on the right are so excited for this to feel. This is the star of the movie, a woman that we've discussed a couple times with John on this podcast, Rachel Zegler, who was anointed by Steven Spielberg as a movie star, came out of nowhere to star in his West Side Story movie, which no one saw. Everyone liked it, I think, that saw it, but no one saw the movie. Did like $10 million at the box office. And she gets cast in this, miscast, obviously. And here she is talking about the material, the classic material on which her character is based.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. And
So being saved by the prince, bad. True love, bad. Being a leader, good.
And the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
Oh, wow. That's a really great response by the Variety guy. Snow White's running for president. She's like Hillary Clinton. She's not a princess. All right, I got one more from the same interview. This is even more smug and detestable. Check this.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big
What is that? Evidently so. Like, what is that smugness? Oh, my God.
focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Oh, my gosh. She's a parody of an actress.
Yeah, she thinks she's adorable, and she's not. And to just dump all over the source material. And I just don't understand this idea that people in Hollywood seem to believe that women don't want true love. Who are they talking to? Everyone is looking for that one. And the idea that and most women really do want to be saved. They want a guy to come in and protect them. I mean, women are wired to be nurturers and men are wired to be problem solvers. And our job, our primary job as men is to protect our family. And that includes our wife. And she's off in this bizarre world where, women don't want to find true love. They want to be fearless leaders. And it just makes no sense. It's just anti-human nature. And that's the problem with the movie, is that there's no prince. She falls in love with sort of a Robin Hood character, who's supposed to be sort of, Errol Flynn-ish, but he's very bland and boring and useless. And at the end of the movie, when there's the big confrontation with the queen, he's nowhere to be found. And he should be by her side because she's in danger. And it's very odd because she walks up to the queen with all the townspeople behind her. And of course, all the women are behind Snow White and all the men are behind the women. And this big confrontation is supposed to take place. And the guy who loves her is nowhere to be found, which is ridiculous because he'd be by. It's a movie that just denies human nature. It's a movie that's so fake and so programmed to put out a message that the story doesn't make sense. You never believe the relationships and you just never believe the movie.
So, and this is something that is a little sad to me in a way, John, because I was hoping, and I told this to my wife, which is Dr. Marlowe, that this is what I was hoping for, and she laughed. So she gets us. I said, I hope Nolte really likes it because that'll be even better because it's going to bomb anyway. And then if he can, and he's such a contrarian, he could come in and say, this thing is awesome. Like, this is great.
Yeah,
they really blew
that.
it. If she wasn't so smug and self-righteous that this thing, but apparently it stinks. I want to get your take, John, but before you explain to me why the movie's not good. So this ending was going around and I'm going to play this for you. This is apparently the end of the movie. I want to see how they got there. That looks fun. I mean, I've never seen so many people dressed in white jumping up and down and chanting. That sounds really good.
Yeah, and
not working for people.
The two romantic leads don't even get married. They don't even show them kissing at the end. It's just that Snow White's become the queen now, and everybody's must have had white clothes hidden. Their painter overalls hidden somewhere, and then they come out. And it's so annoyingly, you've got people of every race and background there, and this is supposed to be the Middle Ages. It's just dumb, and the ending, it's not uplifting at all. I mean, maybe if they'd shown the two of them getting married, that would have helped a little bit. What's wrong with a little romance? But it's just a total failure. It's a miserable, miserable movie.
So Here's my question. So there was this huge reaction. I think these clips, what are they from? 2023. They're so old now of her insulting the source material, and it's mid. I mean, we're towards the end of the first quarter. It's heading towards the second quarter of 2025. They couldn't have put the romance back in. It's the why couldn't they have figured that out? Because I know there had to have been reshoots, right? I mean, what was done when this fallout started to take place, John? Walk us through this.
Right, you guys all know that I've been telling you to buy gold ever since I started the show, and I'm looking pretty good in that prediction right now. $3,000 an ounce. Meanwhile, inflation's still with us. Dollars diving, stock market's on shaky ground. Goldman Sachs thinks it could go to 3,300 this year. I think they might be underselling it. I think it could be even more than that. It's up big this year. It's up huge over last year. It's up monstrous if you got into gold years ago. You don't want to make this mistake again. There's an important kicker here as well. You can add physical gold and silver to your IRA or your 401k, tax and penalty free. And my friends at Priority Gold are here to help. They have a free webinar, can show you exactly how. They'll walk you through the latest forecast, straightforward strategies. They'll do a live Q&A with you. They will help you shield your retirement from all the chaos. And I think it's going to help you grow your wealth as well. So don't wait. Go to prioritygold.com. It's prioritygold.com. You can also text FREEDOM to 24999, and they can get you that free webinar. And when you do it, you're going to sign up, and it's going to strengthen your portfolio with gold and silver. PriorityGold.com or text FREEDOM to 24999. Smart move. Get after it.
What I think happened is that they decided to CGI the dwarfs and make them dwarfs again instead of magical beings or whatever they were going to be.
Yeah.
And then the people we saw in the picture, remember the picture that everybody thought was the dwarfs?
Uh-huh.
Those weren't the dwarfs. Those are the romantic lead, the guy, his band of merry men.
Yeah.
And the rewrites, I think, did two things. I think his band of merry men, diverse band of merry men, lost all their subplots and all their lines, and they were just put off to the side because they just kind of stand around in the background. And my guess is, and I'm just guessing, is that they decided that after Snow White eats the poison apple and dies, that they would have the romantic lead give her a kiss and bring her back to life. That was probably something they shot afterwards. But it just doesn't work, and that's the problem with the movie. There's a movie that Drew Barrymore did called Ever After, and it's a Snow White movie where the prince saves Snow White, Drew Barrymore, and Drew Barrymore saves the prince. And it works because it is what it is. It's a takeoff on Snow White. It's charming. It's not political. And you know you're watching just sort of a skewed version of it. And it's a good movie. I thought it was a terrific movie. It doesn't feel political at all. It's just another take on it. But here, they wanted it both ways. They wanted to be old-fashioned and fourth-generation feminist. And the tone is another thing that keeps taking you out of the movie, which is why you can't believe it.
Yeah, that is something that you feel like though they would correct it because they had this controversy came out, everyone responded to it, everyone responded negative. It made it clear this is this sort of slow motion train wreck. And I'm somewhat surprised that if you do the math on this, so it was $207 their publicized budget. I imagine we had to see at least another 50 in reshoots, right, John, after the controversy?
I think the 270 is with the reshoots, but you've got to add at least another 100 million for promotion.
Right. So I think it was 207. So you're saying about 270 with reshoots, and then at least 100 for promotion, maybe 150. Yeah. It's I'm in the LA area. It's heavily promoted all over here. A lot of billboards. You do see ads for it. So they didn't back off the promotion. So we're talking, 350, 400 million to make this thing. It opens to under 50 million. It's not going to hit 100 worldwide, right? I mean, at that rate. So we're talking $300 million loss.
It didn't hit 100 worldwide. I'd be surprised if it hits 200, 250 worldwide, which it just
so what kind of with this sort of it just feels like it's just very poorly handled, and I just don't. It sometimes goes beyond the star. So the star screwed up. She never corrected it, as we discussed last time. This came up when you were here. I said that if she did a mea maxima culpa and said that she really didn't understand, and now she's thought about it, not going to do it again, we would have been on board, but she didn't do that. So why did I'm frankly shocked at how terrible the crisis management has been from Disney.
Yeah, and she also came out and said that she hopes, Trump and his supporters are all miserable or something like that. And
Yeah.
what they did is what Disney did with Snow White is the same thing that they did with Star Wars, is that they put someone in charge of it. And in this case, it was the star. And I'm not saying she was a star. She was in charge of the movie. Rachel Zegler was in charge of the movie. But obviously, they had to make her happy because they hired her when they thought West Side Story was going to be a big hit. And they put people in the movie in charge of the publicity for the movie, like they did Star Wars, who hate the source material. They hate everything about it. Kathleen Kennedy hates Star Wars. She thinks it's too masculine. It's not feminine enough. And that is just death. That's just death. For all some of these remake problems, problems in these remakes, Peter Jackson's King Kong is a good example. You could see that and I hated his King Kong remake.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a bad movie.
Famously, everyone should read back for Nolte's King Kong reviews.
But you could tell he loved the source material.
Yeah.
You could just tell he was in love with it. You could tell he loved Lord of the Rings. And now you've got people doing Lord of the Rings for Amazon who think that it needs to be repaired, that something that's been around for decades, or in the case of Snow White, for 200 years, it needs to be repaired. And they can't look at it and go, well, why is this timeless? Why does this still work for people? And one of the biggest excuses Hollywood is using now in the press to justify the failure of Snow White is that it's too old. The original movie's 88 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But the first live action movie was Cinderella. And when Cinderella came out, the original movie, the Disney animated version, was 65 years old. And it made the equivalent of $95 million on its opening weekend. So that's just a lie. And how old is Aladdin? How old is Beauty and the Beast? And they make those movies and they're successful because they're timeless. And the problem has nothing to do with the age of these masterpieces that we've all grown up with.
Yeah, this is the I feel like that they're looking for any excuse other than the obvious ones, which is that they should have just scrapped it because his star was so terrible and she's terrible, and it was all miscast, and clearly there was no inspiration with direction. John, did you catch the Ricky Gervais joke he did about this? This was a long time ago. How Peter Dinklage, who's the what do we call them now? Do we call them midgets? Do we call them little people? Well, whatever, dwarf, like whatever we call
little people. So I call them midgets.
Yeah, good. Yeah, well, whatever. Well, whatever is the most offensive. That's what we endorse here on the show. And he was very upset that they had cast actual dwarfs in these roles, and so they had redone it with CGI. And Ricky Gervais said when he was asked about it, the Dinklage was not happy. In fact, he was grumpy. that was pretty good.
Yeah, and that
stuck with me.
They even took 7 dwarfs out of the title, and that's one of the most. That's the part of it that grabs you. The dwarfs are what's fun. Snow White's just sort of a cipher for any girl to be able to glom onto and make Snow White whatever they want her to be, so they can relate to her. And the dwarfs are really the stars of the movie, and they took the dwarfs out, and it's just the movie came out a couple years too late. Because the woke era is over. Trump's victory sent the woke era to the gallows, and it just came out too late to even hit the zeitgeist. It feels very, very regressive now, and very reactionary, especially when it comes to the Peter Dinklage crybabying about dwarfs in Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. I mean, all he was doing was making sure that he didn't get any competition. And he's a great actor, but he's smart. He's looking out for his territory. If you want a midget in a movie, you're going to hire Peter Dinklage. He didn't want anyone else to shine.
Yeah, right. So, okay. So where does Disney go from here with this? Because it feels like, again, this has got to be beyond the Rachel Zegler thing. I mean, she can't destroy the entire company, can she? And the point made over and over, but in case no one's heard me and John discuss this before, also the casting of this very strange extraterrestrial looking person as the Snow White, even though she's not particularly white and is not appealing at all. I will say that the absurdity of having Gal Gadot, the queen, jealous of her is a point that's worth being made over and over again. Another just huge incongruity with the way this thing was done. But what did they do? I'm looking at the China box office numbers, less than 1 million in China, and I think they let it into China, which is very rare. It's only like a dozen times a year. China will even let in an American movie now, and so they're still making no money. So what do they do? What happens next? Because this is not over yet. It's still in theaters. I mean, what are they going to do?
Disney probably saw this. The Snow White movie is passing a kidney stone. Let's just get it done. It's going to be painful. We're going to lose a fortune, but let's just get it out there and get it over with. So now I think the next live action is going to be Lilo and Stitch. Then they got 2 Marvel movies coming out, which star no one. Lilo and Stitch will probably do pretty well. But I don't know.
Really underrated source material, by the way. That's one that the Lilo and Stitch gets a lot of spins in the Marlowe household. So it's really weird but fun. There's aliens, John. There's Hawaii and there's Elvis. So there's all this I don't know how they came up with this stuff, but it actually is. It's pretty good and a lot of family stuff. So potential for a wholesome one. Let's see if they can pull it off. They never do, but the potential for some family values here too.
Yeah, and I think that Disney is going to have to and they have been, if you've looked at like Captain America, Brave New World, which isn't a very good movie, but it's not woke. And I think Disney understands they need to back off all the gay stuff they've been shoving in these movies. And Snow White was just part of the progressive DEI bandwagon from 2 years ago, but with the reshoots and everything else, they had to sit on it. So I doubt we're going to see a lot more of this junk out of Disney because they just can't afford it. But I think they're very worried about Marvel right now, and they should be. And do you
think it's a coincidence that they put The Wolf of Wall Street on Disney Plus? Because I mean that's a great movie, and I just feel like I don't want my 6-year-old watching it yet.
No, of course not.
Good movie.
Oh, that's crazy.
What?
And they used to have a brand.
They're lost, though. That's my point. It feels like they're lost.
They are, and they used to be smart when they wanted to make an adult movie. I think it was Touchstone. That was their brand for if they were going to make an R-rated movie.
Yeah.
And now they just put everything together, and they're just trying to groom your kids. That's all there is to it. You don't put a movie like Wolf of Wall Street on the Disney Channel or the Disney Plus unless you're trying to groom kids.
That's not the Disney. You don't associate Disney with that. It means something. You can't make Disney HBO Plus. Like it's just not. It's not going to be that, and you don't want it to be because you've already got an iconic brand. I understand it. So it seems odd. But Bob Iger's got to be really bad at his job. It's just like no one ever mentions this. He seems like he's terrible at his job. So like, why does no one ever say this guy should get fired and move on to a different part of his life?
He's just too powerful. He's probably the best they can find. He'll be gone at the end of the year, I think, because he's going to retire again. But and Bob Chapek, who replaced him for a year or so, he picked up all of Iger's baggage and then got blamed for it. And then Iger came back in to play the superhero. But, Disney used to be, even, I grew up in the 70s. So that was when they were releasing movies like The Cat in Outer Space and The Strongest Man in the World and these live action movies that were kind of silly comedies. The Love Bug is probably the most famous. But they were always about protecting kids and teaching them universal lessons. If you watch the original Snow White, it's about humility. It's about loyalty and bravery. The dwarfs they saved Snow White. It's about finding true love and sticking in there, sticking with it to find true love. I mean, that's all stuff we can relate to. And I just can't relate to a pint-sized chick who wants to be a fearless leader. I mean, who are you? And I cannot relate to a leading man who doesn't stand by her side when she's in trouble.
I like this, especially in relation to the romance point, John, because I feel like for me, a lot of it's the, I've been with the same woman since I was 17 years old. So it's like 21 years. It's like, it's still very fun to see a romance. Like it's still, you kind of put yourself in their shoes, you relate to it. We all have got that, right? I mean, even the coldest hearts among us, right? I mean, like, we all like to see a good romance, don't we? So to take that out and to put in a girl boss theme, which who does that resonate with? Some women, but not all. So you take something universal, like the desire to fall in love and to meet your Prince Charming or your princess, it is biological. It's in all of us. And then you take that out, we're putting in no, you actually want to be a feminist girl boss. Just why?
Yeah, it's not a healthy message because marriage is the best thing that can happen to someone. If you're in a good marriage, it's the best thing that can happen. It's the best thing that can happen for your mental health.
Yeah.
There's a reason why who they call these awfuls, affluent white female liberals who are single, why they're so unhappy and neurotic. And, you get a partner, you got an emotional partner, you've got a financial partner. Marriage is the best way out of poverty because you've got two incomes sometimes, or at least you got someone who can help you while you're doing what you want to do.
Sure.
I mean, I've been married for 36 years now, or 36 years this year, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me by far. And I look at all the things that I've been able to do, and I wouldn't have been possible without my pretty wife. So it's
hold on though, John. How much more would you have loved her though if she'd become a junior vice president at Facebook before you met? I mean, you would have if she was like a corporate girl boss?
She worked for a lot of the time we were together, and she had some pretty good positions, but as far as like a buyer for a major department store and running the central supply department at a big nursing home. So, but it never, that was her job, and she did a good job, and she was conscientious. But she was always my wife first, and I've always tried to be her husband first, and that sometimes requires some difficult decisions, but I never regretted them. And I cannot imagine going through life alone, like Rachel Zegler wants all these girls to do, like Snow White is telling all these girls to do. The key to happiness really is finding a significant other and committing to them.
And I'm reluctant to mansplain too much because it seems like a trap a little bit, but we both have happy marriages and I have daughters, and it's the telling your daughter that just becoming a girl boss is going to be the key to their happiness. I'm on the verge of 40, so I've got a lot of peers who grew up in hearing nonstop this message where if you just become a career success, you will be fulfilled. And a lot of my friends who are women and my wife's friends who did get the career success but did not get the happy home life are not fulfilled. And it's just something to keep an eye on, is that just being able to take a good vacation or be able to, plasmas are cheap now. And no one can afford a home anyway, even if you are successful. So it's one of these things where it really is important to not lose sight of the romantic part of your life. I'm not saying that you don't want to be strong and a leader and all that. I didn't see the movie. Maybe it would resonate with me more than it sounds like it would, John, but it is, we're so overloaded with the one message to women that has not made them happier. They're more depressed than they've ever been. And they're told constantly that the key to not being depressed is to working for a corporation and dedicating your life to being a leader at your corporation. And that's what this is all about. And that's what repels me. But I do want to say there is another toxicity that is going through our society right now. And this is narcissistic morning routines. Now, John, you've probably steeled yourself from this because you watch movies, and I'm guessing you don't doom scroll as often as people my age and younger. But something that is, for some reason, is taken off online is people who post these narcissistic videos of their day where they show you all the things they do to show you, generally speaking, subtly how they're superior to you, how they're more organized, how they're more put together. Well, there was one that came out over the weekend where the guy missed the memo on the subtlety part. I think his name's Ashton Hall. I don't know for sure. I hadn't heard of him until this weekend. But this has gotten 600 million views on Twitter when I had pulled this down. And I want to play this for you, John. If this is due to you, you will. I do not believe this is a parody. That's all I have to say. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to have to describe this for the listening audience. So this is a guy, he's in impeccable shape. He's got a nose strip. He's wearing one of those hostage tapes so you only breathe through your nose at night. He's getting up at 3:50 in the morning. He has impeccable lighting, and he's already got a gold chain on. His hair's looking good. He's getting ready for the day. He's sloshing with bottled water, even though it's blue bottle. So Saratoga, really fancy bottled water. And now he's heading outside. It's 4 a.m. Okay, he does, those of you who are seeing the screen, he paused on his balcony. He's been out there for 17 minutes. He's drinking his water. He's now crouching for no reason. He did about 4 push-ups, and he's just living the best life. It's 4:38. Now it's time to look at a book and meditate. He's sitting down at a desk.
So we're going to be serious about the Lord's business.
Okay, so now he's journaled a little bit, and he's watched a powerful sermon on his phone. Okay, that was the best part. He did a face bath with ice and bottled water. He poured bottled water into a bowl of ice and dunked his face in it. I'm going to fast forward a little bit just for the sake of John's time, but he goes to the gym, he works out, he runs very fast in a parking lot. He's got a nice car. He eventually, he does several more ice baths, and this is when I'm just going to play this towards the end. It's 8:45. This is awesome. He's rubbing a banana peel on his face. He rubs a banana peel on his face. He eats a banana and he rubs the banana.
So looking at
another ice bath.
At least 10,000.
Now he's getting cooked for. He's got nice designer stuff. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So this is just all over the place. And had you seen this, John? Did you catch this?
Yeah. I haven't seen it until now, but holy cow, what a way to live.
What's your take? Give me your take. I'm going to hear it.
Well, it's, it, for what, does he ever put a shirt on?
No, he doesn't own a shirt. Doesn't need a shirt.
Doesn't need a
cool
shirt even at
pants.
work or anything?
Yeah. No, he's got those sleeves for your muscles for when you're working out, but he doesn't have a shirt.
It's just, yeah, it is. It's just pure narcissism. And it's one of the things that social media has done to our culture, I think, has spread this as a virtue. And I doubt very much this guy lives like this. I mean, he's in good shape, so obviously he works out. But I doubt very much he lives like this because nobody can be that perfect 24/7.
Right.
And over time, it just gets exhausting to keep doing the same thing. But he's selling a lifestyle as though his lifestyle is fulfilling, and that's just not a fulfilling lifestyle. Just keeping, because it's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me. Bottled water for my ice bath. It's just, he probably filled it with tap water for the video, but there's nothing fulfilling about living like that. It might be cool, but it's about family. It's about friends. It's about kids. It's about your significant other. It's not about these materialistic things, and that's just all it is. It's just materialism. I mean, when Christ talks about how a rich man can't get into heaven any more than a camel can get through the eye of a needle, I think that's what he's talking about. Is just this naked, aggressive materialism. I mean, I got nice stuff, but the idea of using bottled water to wash my face, I mean, that's just very excessive and narcissistic. And you could do a lot of good things with that money.
So if I was really committed to this show, if I really was dedicated to my audience, I would have gone downstairs for a banana just now and rubbed it on my face while you're giving that great answer, John. But I'm just a little too lazy to do that. People have heard me say that you're my real life godfather, which is true. You're my actual godfather. And one thing that I do think about when I watch stuff like this, even though a lot of it's for amusement and a lot of it's a fantasy, it's a pornography in a way, which is not, it's not great, but I can be tolerant of it in a free speech sense. But there is something here that does offend me. I don't like that every time I see one of these incredibly narcissistic videos, there's always some sort of acknowledgement of God or the Lord or Jesus. There's always someone saying, there's always some the caption that mentions God, or in this case, he clearly listened to a sermon for 5 minutes. And so it's one of these things that suggests that this is a godless life. Now, I actually think that's the sin of carrying the Lord's name in vain, because this is a godless life. This is a life of very low value priorities. And physical fitness is good, but the excessive materialism, the obsessive materialism, the lack of family, the narcissism, all of that is gets you away from God. But then they throw in we're doing the Lord's business today, and then all of a sudden, all is supposed to be forgiven. I do think we should call it out. I'm not trying to go too hard on it, but it's worth calling out. I mean, that's inappropriate, in my opinion.
Are you tired of destructive content flooding your screens? I was too, which is why I joined the Angel Guild community. I wanted content that inspires and uplifts and doesn't drag us down. And with Angel Guild, I can vote on upcoming films that support and reflect my values. I get early access to inspiring content, and most importantly, I'm no longer beholden to Hollywood's entertainment industry and their agendas. Angel Studio is leading the charge, creating high-quality, faith-filled films like Sound of Freedom, Cabrini, and Homestead. These movies are powerful, and they're must-sees if you haven't already seen them. And if you want to make a real difference, where we put our dollars shapes the future of entertainment. So let's support the content that amplifies light, protects our children from harmful influences. So join me in making a difference today by visiting angel.com/Marlow. That's angel.com/Marlow, and join the Angel Guild now.
Yeah, there's just something gross about it. And I don't, it's like he's the American Psycho. He's today's American Psycho who lived, that guy lived a very similar life in the 80s in the movie. And I just don't see any fulfillment in that. It's just the schedule, and I'm going to do these things because it's cool to do these things. And he's obviously living a very lucrative lifestyle. I mean, again, I have a house and I got a pickup truck, and I got a big Blu-ray collection, but the idea of just pissing away money, to wash your face with bottled water, that just crosses a line to me. And you're right, this sort of wrist flick to God, because that's all part of it. It just doesn't feel very, very sincere, because I don't think that once you give your life over to Christ sincerely, you could live that way. You'd be a little more humble, and that's what's missing from that guy is humility.
Here's the big question. Who does this appeal to? What does this appeal to? Is it just that we all mindlessly scroll and consume content, and we're not even really thinking about what we're consuming? And it does get you to stop and watch it. You do think, what's this guy's deal that he's doing it? And he is in good shape, and we all should be in good shape. Being in good shape is good. But it's I'm a little concerned, though, about the obsessive narcissism that seem to be elevating.
Yeah, and that's, it's fine to watch it. I watch all kinds of stuff where people, true crime. I love true crime, but it's not. But I enjoy the human nature aspect of it. I enjoy what are people capable of? Because human nature fascinates me. And so I'd probably watch this for that reason. I don't know if I'd watch all of it, but the idea is to sell this basically unobtainable lifestyle and to show off. This guy's young. He doesn't really have good values, so he's showing off things that don't matter. And it really, like you said, it's porn, and porn can if you watch too much of it, if you consume too much of it, it can really mess with your head. And this is lifestyle porn, and porn is just empty. There's no love there. There's no foundation there. And I don't, you watch a kid crawl in their dad's lap and fall asleep. You watch a video of that. That's a beautiful thing. It affects everyone. You watch this, and I guess some people look at it and say, yeah, I want to live that way. I want to look like that guy. I want to live that way. But it's just a road to hell. It's just a road to loneliness. And I don't see the fulfillment in that lifestyle at all.
And how many face baths do you need in a day, even if you just did the one? But he had like 3 or 4 by 9 o'clock. Just very. The other thing they don't show you is that when you're getting up at 3:50, that you're taking a nap at some point. Is it? It's the right. I mean, you're not pulling all dayer if you're getting up at 3:50. You're going to bed. All right, I got a couple more entertainment related ones. I'm gonna get a couple political things too. Did you catch? I did not ask you to do this, John, but the George Clooney had a 60 Minutes puff piece apparently last night that I did not watch. Why are we into George Clooney right now? He's Obama's best friend. He tried to take out Biden for Obama. It didn't really work out. Are we on Clooney again? Why are we on Clooney all the time? Like, who cares?
He's putting on a Broadway show of his movie Good Night and Good Luck. And the guy that did the 60 Minutes piece is friends with Clooney. And Trump is right. It's a puff piece. He's also right that Clooney's a second-rate movie star. But that's all they're doing. And it's just about what Good Night and Good Luck did in 2004 was it told the media to stop being objective. It told the media that if you want to be a hero like Edward R. Murrow, you need to stop being objective and you need to say what you believe. And that movie, even though it didn't make a lot of money, only made about $50 million. It really toxified the media. And that was what I saw as really the beginning of the end of the media, because George Clooney saying, you guys need to come out and stop doing the both sides stuff and let your opinion out there. And you need to tell people what's right and wrong, just like Edward R. Murrow did. And that began the sort of personality journalism that has thankfully destroyed journalism and its credibility. So now he's doing the play on Broadway, and this time he's going to play Edward R. Murrow. So that's why they're doing it. And nobody asked him any tough questions because he's talking about censorship and he's talking about how the media needs to stand up for the government. But he never said a word when Harry Reid threatened ABC's broadcast license about the path to 9/11, which was moderately critical of the Clinton administration's handling of Osama bin Laden. And then Disney totally caved and buried the path to 9/11. He never spoke up about that. He never spoke up about any of this cancel culture stuff that's been going on the last 5 years. He never spoke up about, which is naked McCarthyism. He never spoke up about all the things his precious free media, all the hoaxes that they've done. You guys need to get better. He asked, when he's asked about the editorial he wrote for the New York Times telling Joe Biden to step down, he smugly says, well, I was brought up to tell the truth. Well, you knew the truth a month earlier when you saw him at the fundraiser. You didn't say anything. You didn't say anything until after the debate, until after you knew that he was not going to be able to bluff his way through this. So the guy just has, the media loves him, Hollywood loves him, but he's never been a very big star. He's never been a very big talent. He has no real legacy as a filmmaker or star. Right. I can't think of a movie of his that's going to outlive him, maybe out of sight. But that's why he's back, because the media, again, is looking for someone to say, you guys are doing the right thing, even though you're destroying everything about your business. So I'm glad Clooney's out there.
I just want you to start referring to him as From Dusk Till Dawn star George Clooney, because I still think that's the only thing I've ever liked him in.
Yeah.
Just a fun movie.
I'm glad he's out there. I want the media to discredit themselves, and that's basically what he's telling them to do.
Great. Yeah, I like it. So that actually is compelling. I'm glad you brought that to my attention, because they're basically saying we need more partisan journalism. That's what this is all about, to take out Trump, because
you need to stand up to Trump. You need to stand up to fascism. And
he's going to have a lot of guilt because he was part of the cabal that took out Biden on Obama's behalf, of course. And so, great, good, okay, good. That's all good. All right, I got one more Hollywood adjacent political one. This guy Mark Carney, who's the Prime Minister of Canada, I guess, sort of temporarily, he's going to have to stand for election. And he's going up against Pierre Poilievre, who's a pretty likable conservative, pretty moderate. Frances Martel called this for us at our Breitbart Confidential show, which is why you guys should all get the Breitbart Fight Club. She said this first, that he needs to pick a fight with Trump, and they need to fight because they're trying to cast him as Trump. So neither of them can let that happen. And now that's happened. So Trump and Poilievre are fighting, which is perfect. And since that happened, Poilievre has gone up in the polls. So it's just absolutely perfect. Mark Carney is out there and he cannot string half a sentence together. I played a speech of his on Friday's show. Those of you who missed the show, he literally cannot say a half a sentence without stuttering and smacking his lips. So I'm not saying he's an idiot. He certainly sounds like an idiot. And maybe he's smart, but he certainly can't talk. So he's cut an ad with Mike Myers. And I want to play this for you, John, and get your thoughts on this. Mike Myers from Wayne's World, SNL, Austin Powers, all that stuff.
Let's go. Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing here? I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
You live in the States?
Yeah, but I'll always be Canadian.
But you live in the States?
Yeah, so?
Do you remember Mr. Dress Up?
Okay, so far they're in a hockey arena and they're wearing hockey jerseys and they're just talking about something. This is off to a slow start. Mike Myers has kind of like a Justin Bieber haircut for some reason, even though he's got to be 60s at this point.
Dress Up, the children's show on CBC.
What were the names of Mr. Dress Up's two puppet friends?
Casey and Finnegan.
Bud the
Spud.
Howie.
Meeker.
Capitals Saskatchewan.
Regina.
Tragically.
Pip.
You're a defenseman defending a 2-on-1. What do you do?
Take away the pass, obviously.
What are the two seasons in Toronto?
Winter and construction.
Wow. You really are Canadian.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right. Elbows up.
Elbows up.
And then the big reveal is Mike Myers' jersey says never 51, meaning they will not become the great state of Canada. Any quick takes, John?
Right. Well, it's obviously pretty awkward. You know, the two of them have no chemistry whatsoever. And it's too long. It's way too long. And I don't know why him? Why would they take a guy who lives in the States? I mean, if you don't want to live here, it just doesn't make any sense. And he's not that big of a star anymore. But I don't know why they would take a guy who lives in the United States and say, oh, we don't want to become part of the United States. Obviously, Mike Myers thinks the United States is superior to Canada. So it just doesn't seem like a very effective ad. It's just a couple of awkward white guys.
Can I tell you something? I was hoping that's what you would say because I thought they couldn't find an actual Canadian. They had to find a Canadian who lives in America and has not been relevant for a very long time. I mean, Mike Myers talk about a guy with a canon of movies, a lot of memorable stuff that people have. Still, it's just like, when was the most recent one? 25 years ago? When's the last time he did anything anyone cared about? And so
yeah. I mean, and and you're right. Who are they going to find? Gordon Lightfoot is dead. He was a very dedicated Canadian.
Corey Hart. I wear my sunglasses at night.
What's that?
Corey Hart. I wear my sunglasses at night.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no one that they. So it kind of goes against the whole message. But I'll be interested to see how the election comes out. And I'm sure Trump was up for a fight. He's like, yeah, come on, let's get into a fight, and then we can win the election. I'm sure that's what happened there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that he is I just think that helps us. And I think that's the main thing. All right. A couple other quick ones, John, I want to get your thoughts on, and then we'll run. Bill Maher is apparently going to go to the White House. I do find Bill Maher to occupy this very irritating part of the media of people who are just coming to things that we all knew 10 years ago and is getting treated like a genius for coming to them. And he doesn't vote properly. He still votes for the bad guys. So I don't have Bill Maher fever, but you see this as significant?
Yeah, I do. Because Trump collects trophies. He collects these folks that hated him, and then he brings them in, and he's got another trophy.
I like that.
And look at, Marco Rubio is a perfect example. And I'm not trying to condescend to these folks that have changed their minds about things, because that's a brave thing to do. And I've no doubt that Marco Rubio is a true believer, because when he's in the media, he's on his own. He's right on message. You could see that he's buying this. He's bought it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
if he can collect a trophy like Bill Maher, and Bill Maher just always seems like he's right on the edge of getting red pilled, right on the edge, but he just can't quite seem to do it, even though he feels it. So a good conversation, and I'm sure Bill Maher will be blunt with Trump, and I'm sure Trump will be blunt with him. And if Bill Maher can walk out of there with a little respect for the guy now that he's met him as president, he might have met him beforehand, but now that he's met him as president, that's all good. And I like that. I remember during the Obama campaign in 2008, and John McCain kept saying to Obama, you're willing to meet unilaterally with Iran. And I remember thinking to myself, so what? How is that a bad thing? If you can, all that matters is the end game. All that matters is that if you could talk Iran out of a nuclear missiles, that's a good thing. Who cares how he does it? And it's the same thing here. Good, meet with him, see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? Is it Bill Maher goes back to being Bill Maher? So I think it says a lot for both men that they're willing to do that.
Good. Okay, great. Good. I'm glad to have a positive take on it. All right, I'm going to read a truth bomb from the president. The failing New York Times insists on using little Peter Baker, spelled with D's. He's their White House correspondent, a really bad writer, an Obama biographer and sycophant, to write many of the long and boring fake news hit pieces against me. The only two people with less talent than Peter are his quote-unquote wife, the lovely Susan Glasser, I guess maybe implying they're gay, I don't know, and of course, Maggot Hagerman, who may be the least talented writer in the entire stable of New York Times mediocrity, all caps locks. There's something really wrong with these people and their sick, Trump deranged editors. They did everything within their power to help rig the election against me. Now did that work? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Make America great again. Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. I don't know what the latest fake news hit piece was in the New York Times. I mean, any quick thoughts, John?
It's just startling to me that that's the first I've heard of that, because remember during his first term, anytime he sent something out, it would just swamp us. And now we got to react to this. And It's like the media doesn't want to play these things up anymore or turn it into a thing. Nothing knocks Trump off message. And this stuff used to knock him off message for 2 or 3 days. And now it's just part of the ether out there. And he's right about Peter Baker, obviously. He's obviously right about Maggie Haberman, but even though he used to talk to her all the time, I hope he stopped doing that.
And they still do leak to the Times. I mean, the White House is doing much better, but still, they still do leak to the Times sometimes.
Yeah, if I could ask Trump one question, it's why do you do business with these folks? You know they're going to lie about you. You give them credibility when you talk to them. Why do you have anything to do with these folks?
Yes,
that's the question that I would ask him. But he's smarter than I am. He's playing a game of chess that's well beyond what I see, and I respect that now. Now that this comeback of his is just extraordinary. And he is the dominant politician of the 21st century, and everybody thought that was going to be Obama, and it's not.
Yeah, right. And that is such a great way of putting it, a wonderful way of putting it. Did you have a thought on the latest overtures for us to go to get Greenland? Because I think you were helpful to me, John, understanding that it's important to get Greenland. And it seems like we're going over there again. Do you think we need to close this deal?
You don't know what he's after, because like he said, he wanted the Panama Canal, and then he got what he got, and that you asked for 10, you settle for 7. So I don't know. I mean, if we could get Greenland, if we could make it a territory, that would be fantastic. But my guess is that he's looking to increase at least our influence there, and this is all about China, obviously. Our influence there, and he's looking to send a message to China through this that we are taking this very seriously, and we're looking at expanding for the first time since Hawaii, 70 years ago. So it's or Puerto Rico maybe. So it's a smart play as far as geopolitically, because it sends a good message. The worst case is that we end up where we are with Greenland and we have a base over there. But I think that's what he does. He plants seeds. He plants these seeds, and he sounds a little off. That's crazy. And then all of a sudden, Joe Rogan's going, I'm going to vote for this guy. And that's what he does. He's just brilliant at it.
Yep. All right, last one for the day. So you keep an eye on Wisconsin a little bit because you've got family there. The big political thing right now, and we're only a week away from it, is this Supreme Court election in Wisconsin. The stakes could not be higher here because if I think pretty much the balance of the court relies on the seat. And if the court goes left, they could redistrict and we could end up losing seats. And if it goes right, we'll have the upper hand in that regard. I know you're paying a little bit of attention to this, John, but fill our audience in.
It's the last poll I saw is that the race was tied. I know Scott Pressler is there, and he's, that guy can make a big difference. 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, Turning Point's there
difference.
too, which is good.
Pardon me?
Turning Point USA is there, or Turning Point Action. I know they're up there.
Yeah,
so.
and these guys know, they know what they're doing. And the other thing that works in our favor is that I think Wisconsin is slowly moving red, which is a miracle for someone who grew up there. And people understand the stakes. So, and the attacks on the Democrat are pretty effective. They're pretty similar to what Trump did to Kamala Harris as far as all the gay stuff and the trans stuff and the women's sports stuff. And that really hits people. So I would never make a prediction, but I feel better about this race than I did the previous Supreme Court race, which we lost. And that's when the Democrats took over the Supreme Court. I think it's 4-3 now. So this could even things up or move it one direction or the other. But it's an important race, and I do feel better about it than the previous one.
Good. Well, everyone should get involved if you're involved in Wisconsin at all, but also look up any of your favorite activist groups if you want to participate. And John threw a couple out there, but I'm sure there's some others as well who are there. But let's get involved with more coverage of that at Breitbart News. If you guys subscribe to Breitbart Fight Club, you will get John's review of Snow White, which is hilarious. I was laughing out loud when I was reading. I could not wait to open it up. So he suffered not in vain. He suffered for your amusement to go through the movie. And if you've not read his book, Borrowed Time, you're missing out. John, you're exceedingly generous with your time for the audience, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, my pleasure. Good to talk to you, Alex, always.
Always good. Thanks to Misty. Thanks to all of you. Talk to you tomorrow.